everyone. Welcome to Speakers Bank Podcast, Special Edition. I'm Mary, a member of the podcast team from JTI, working for Speakers Bank. And to our viewers, subscribers, everyone out there, we are very lucky and fortunate to have this opportunity to be having our special guest for today. As a matter of fact, we have been trying to catch her up before these COVID-19 pandemic restrictions began. So now finally, without further ado, we got a chance to speak with her, and she will share to us her special important role to the lives of the people in the community as the NDIS Support Coordinator. Welcome, Jayne Dunn.
Thank you. Thanks, Mary.
No worries.
Good to be on, finally.
Nice. Finally, nice to meet you, Jayne.
You too.
Yes, thank you. Our very first question, Jayne, most of us would like to know, all the students out there or those who would like to be interested in your position, what is the role of NDIS Support Coordinator?
Yeah, so an NDIS Support Coordinator is someone who is funded in a person's NDIS plan, who mainly help with, it's in the name, coordination of supports and in helping implement their plan. And this can involve assisting the participant to locate suitable providers, linking them in with those supports, engaging with those providers, and also helping participants increase their knowledge around their plan, and also just helping the participant, I think, gain the best value for money, because they're giving bulk funding. So helping the participant gain the best value for money, they're giving a bulk funding, and it's just working out how you can use it, you can use it all, and and get the most out of it. So I have a background in social work, but I think to be a support coordinator, you just need sort of experience in the disability field or in social work and case management, something, and then you'll have the transferable skills for the role.
Wow, you should be a superwoman coordinating disability and all these people as a coordinating. So that's really impressive, Jayne. Thank you. And another thing, how do you assess or determine the individual who needs NDIS support?
We receive referrals from the NDIA if they're wanting to engage in support coordination, and then we generally accept all the referrals unless we don't have the capacity, but generally, if someone was wanting to access the NDIA, they have to go through a process where they're assessed on usually information that's provided by healthcare professionals, such as your GP or physiotherapist or an occupational therapist, sort of explaining the type of disability you would have and how it impacts your everyday life, whether or not you will benefit or require NDIS supports, and also they'll assess whether or not you'll need it for the rest of your life. And then if you meet those access requirements, then you'll generally be able to access NDIA or access NDIS supports.
Oh, wow. So is that kind of from the GP or their allied health professionals, sort of a form that they bring it to you?
Yeah, there is a form. It's called an access request form, but also the like your GP or OT or whoever can also like write an assessment. I guess addressing all those areas, and the more evidence, the better. And then once you submit that, it provides some guidance as to what kind of supports you're after and how much funding you should get for those supports.
Sounds interesting. And these particular special treatment, or is there any special need that a person with NDIS may need that hasn't been done before?
So I think generally, like with NDIS, I guess some people they have like been receiving supports for a while or for their whole life, just with other funding, and then NDIS came in and it sort of transitioned over. And the intention of NDIS was to bring about, focus on choice and control. So to give the participants the choice and control to choose their own supports, like as opposed to like the previous funding. But sometimes people who have received NDIS, like they haven't received any supports before, and now it's sort of given them opportunity to engage with healthcare professionals to sort of identify any equipment they might need, or if they need like a support worker to help them out. Like it's sort of like open up that avenue to sort of like allow more formal supports, I guess, in a person's life.
Well, that's a tough assessment with those needs, Jayne. Well, and another thing, how long is the waiting time for assessing the NDIS potential support?
It depends on, the urgency of the application, and it also depends on the NDIA's, capacity at the time. For example, if it's a busy time like it has been with, COVID-19, they might delay the application a bit, but usually it can take a few weeks or a few months, but depending on, how urgent the need is. If the person is already has a package of the previous funding and is doing okay, then they usually might not prioritize that as much as other applicants that are, say, in really urgent need of support. I guess it depends on those factors.
Oh, so depending on the case to case. Doesn't mean that if I submit it first, I'm the first one next. Doesn't like that. Depending on urgency of this. I see.
Generally. In my experience, that's how it's been.
Just to be clear with them, for example, if I have some other, for example, that's me, and then the other one, they might ask, how process very fast on my end. Then the other one is a little bit delayed. But for now that there's a COVID-19 pandemic, so all hands on deck for all those special requests, huh?
If it's support coordination, generally so once the person has a plan, then we can accept the support coordination, and that usually doesn't take long. It just depends how quickly we can get in touch with the participant. If it might take a few phone calls to get through to them or something like that. But generally, if we get a referral through, it doesn't take too long to get in contact. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And please kindly share to us, Jane, what are or how the negotiation process when it comes to NDIS funding. How do you usually do the negotiation, or what are the process?
Yeah, so like with when accessing your plan, like it depends heavily on, I guess, your evidence from like the healthcare professionals. So it's good to have an OT recommendation saying like, I've seen this person and they need so and so hours of OT, and then that determines how much funding they have for occupational therapy in their first or next plan. So it depends on the evidence and how the person has been progressing towards their goals. If anything has changed in their life where they need less or increased supports. And also, if it's a review of a plan, they'll look at, the NDIA would look at how much funding was used in the previous year and sort of determine of that. So they might say like, oh, you had a lot of funding in daily activities, like people to help you with personal care. How come that wasn't used? And then if the person says, oh, I didn't really need it that much, then there might be less funding in the next plan. Or they might say, because I was in hospital a lot, I didn't really get the chance to use it, so they'll just, extend it to the next plan. Yeah.
So there's a review plan for these process, negotiation.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So, so when the person will get their first plan, and that's, I guess, when their first review is, and then generally after 12 months, the person will be reviewed, or the plan will be reviewed. They'll see how they went in the first plan, and if they wanted to change anything for the second one, and then the plan can be, you can be reviewed another 12 months, or you can ask for like a 2-year plan. Sometimes I think they're going up to a 3-year plan, but it depends how you see your future. If it's looking stable and looking the same, then generally you can have like a 3-year plan. But if in the future things are likely to change, then you can just keep it a 12-month plan to be reviewed on a sort of annual basis.
Wow, those are tough workloads on your end. Okay. And also, Jane, what are the challenges have you experienced in negotiating the amount of funds to a specific person with a disability?
Yeah, so I guess, like I was saying before, when it comes to review time, if a person hasn't used like all of their funds from the previous year because of whatever reason, it's a bit harder to negotiate for those funds to be included in the next plan. And you have to explain because the support coordinators, they write reports to NDIA. You have to explain in the reports like why all the funding hasn't been used. It might be because of like restrictions in place. People haven't been able to use their community access funding because they're not going out in the community as much, and just sort of like justifying, I guess, why funds haven't been used, and if that person still needs it in their next plan, or if they don't need it, you can mention that as well. Also, it gets tricky if there's insufficient evidence. So if the person hasn't seen like an OT or physio or whoever during the year, it's a bit harder to sort of justify the need for support for the next year. So generally it's straightforward, but sometimes yeah, sometimes there's a bit more negotiation involved. Yeah.
So that's like sort of when you straightforward negotiate and be firm in what you have discussed about the amount, especially the amount. Yeah. Thank you, Jayne. And what are the kinds of support system that you provide to the NDIS families?
So I guess the aim of support coordination is to encourage the families and the participant to be in control of their supports as much as possible. So during the first year, for example, someone might get a new plan, but they need help finding an OT. They might need help finding like a provider for a support worker to help them out. And then the first year might involve just a lot of helping the person link up with these agencies and find the right supports. And so for the subsequent years, the support coordination is needed a bit less because the families and participants already they're already linked up with the organizations, and they sort of have more, I guess, knowledge about how to navigate and use their funds. Well, that's the aim anyway. And yeah, so support coordination is sort of needed less and less, and given more control to the family and to the participant in understanding and using their own supports. Because then the family can just talk to the organizations, the agencies, the healthcare professionals just directly, instead of having to go through support coordination. Yeah.
Wow, that's something new to me. Thanks for that, Jayne. And before we end, Jayne, there's so much questions to ask for you, but we have limited time. I hope there's next time. But this last questions, I'm not sure how to ask this to you, but usually what are the terms to end when you would end the service? How does it happen?
Yeah, so it would usually happen if the person no longer needs support coordination. So if all of their supports are set up and the need for support coordination is reduced, then it's usually replaced with sort of less intensive, they call it local area coordination. So it instead of support coordination, you would have a different person that sort of is there to help if needed, but it's a bit less intensive than support coordination. So, I mean, sometimes, people would receive a new plan and it wouldn't have support coordination in it. So that's when, we'd have to say goodbye.
Say goodbye.
Yeah, so, they're usually the terms. Unless, the person wants to change support coordinators, then we'll do a handover with the next support coordinator and sort of end the service that way. Or mainly if the participant would like another support coordinator, or if the relationship isn't right or suitable, something like that. But they're usually the terms. So when one doesn't need it, or when one wants to change, I guess.
So that's usually the terms. But definitely with us, with Speakers Bank and you, we would definitely need you all the time. And the next time, if you still have time. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jayne. Any last words, Jayne, that we would like to, hear that you are trying to tell our viewers out there about the NDIS Support Coordinator to make it easy on you?
Yeah, I guess it's just, support coordinators are there to help and I guess make it a bit less scary because when you're on NDIS for the first time, it's a whole other language and it's hard to sort of understand. But yeah, the support coordinators there to help and like I learn new stuff every day about NDIS, so it's not. So yeah, it takes time, I guess, and then after time, you do become a bit more comfortable and start to understand a bit more. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for having me on, and yeah, I'm happy that we finally got together and organised it. Yeah, considering the circumstances.
Yes. And also thank you also, Jayne, for your generosity for giving us this chance for the podcast, and also for on behalf of Mimi, we are grateful to you, Jayne, for always responding to us whenever we need you.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And also to invite everyone to like and subscribe the YouTube channel of Speakers Bank and follow us on Facebook. And for this episode with Jayne, the NDIS Support Coordinator, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please don't forget to give us a call, 03-9314-0988. It's not Jayne who's going to answer the phone, just any comments, suggestions. Bye, Jayne, and bye to your lovely cats with you.
Bye, Mary.
Thanks for much more time. Stay safe.
Thank you, you too.
And mask on. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right, bye.
Bye.